When his ex-wife arrived with a billionaire, the heartwarming truth was unexpectedly revealed. Jake's heart raced as he tightened the last bolt on a rusted old pickup truck. The summer sun streamed through the windows of his modest auto repair shop, casting patterns on the floor that reminded him of the laughter and milkshakes he used to share with Sarah. He hadn't meant to feel this pang today. It was just another Friday. But when he heard whispers of her arrival at the town charity event with her new billionaire boyfriend, it felt like all the air had been sucked out of his lungs. That night, he could already picture the glamorous life she'd traded for the everyday chaos of a grease-stained garage and 2 kids who were his whole world. As Jake wiped his hands on a rag, the chatter in the local diner reached him like an unwelcome wave, taunts layered with envy over Sarah's apparent success. She's with a millionaire now. The ladies at the counter giggled, their voices dripping with curiosity. Each word felt like a knife. With every exaggerated compliment about how lucky she was, Jake's chest constricted tighter. The life he built felt like an echo against the dazzling image of what could have been. But it wasn't just the memories that stung. It was the sense of failure that loomed over him like a cloud. His modest existence seemed dwarfed by the bright lights of what Sarah was now a part of. The laughter they had once shared grew twisted in his mind, morphing into a rough reminder of a dream unfulfilled. He struggled to shake himself free from the shackles of resentment. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Later that week, the community gathering had an air of expectation. As Jake scanned the room, his eyes landed on Sarah. She was radiant, her laughter ringing out like the joyful chime of a bell. It had once filled his heart, but now it only sparked a storm within. He felt small and invisible among their old friends, each shared greeting turning into a weighted silence as they both stepped forward to confront what had been left unsaid. Conversations meandered, filled with awkwardness until Sarah finally confessed, her voice tender and raw. "You'd think all this would make me happy." Jake watched the guise of confidence wane as she spoke about the loneliness that struck hard amidst the wealth and luxury. Deep down, he felt a flicker of understanding burning through the bitterness. But just as the emotional barriers began to crumble, news of chaos erupted. The community center was on fire. Panic swept through the room like wildfire, and without a second thought, Jake jumped into action, leading friends old and new to help. The flames reflected desperation, but also unity, as they fought against the burning wreckage of shared memories. As they labored side by side, Jake caught glimpses of Sarah's vulnerability hidden beneath her designer clothes. Their hearts, once tied, began to dance around each other again through shared purpose, dismissing the boundaries they had built. Just as the tension shifted toward a shared future, deeper fissures in the community were revealed, and Jake found himself questioning what it truly meant to lead a family through turmoil. With emotions swirling like the smoke around them, he wondered if they could truly rebuild what they had lost, or if the shadows of their past would forever haunt their fragile hopes. The unresolved feelings loomed large, and for Jake, the next steps felt more uncertain than ever. The next morning, Jake woke up to the smell of burnt wood still lingering in the air. Even after the flames had been doused, the charred remains of the community center served as an all-too-real reminder of the fragility of their lives. He could hardly shake the feeling that he was on the edge of something monumental, or that he had already lost everything he once thought was secure. As he drank his coffee, he noticed the children's laughter drifting in from outside. His kids, Tom and Lily, were playing in the yard, their innocence a stark contrast to the tangled mess of adult emotions swirling inside him. His heart swelled slightly at their carefree joy, and for a moment, he allowed himself to breathe deeply, hoping the warm sunlight could chase away some of the uncertainties clouding his mind. The phone rang, jolting him from his thoughts. It was Sarah. His heart skipped a beat, but he steadied himself before answering. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual. "Jake," her voice was soft yet firm, "I've been thinking about yesterday. I feel like we didn't really finish talking about everything." He knew he should be cautious, but the longing in her voice melted some of the walls he'd quickly rebuilt after the community center incident. "Yeah, we were busy saving the place," he replied, attempting to mask the deeper layers of emotion boiling beneath the surface. "I'd like to meet up maybe at the park?" she suggested. Jake hesitated, unsure of whether the old wounds were still too fresh to bear. But deep down, something urged him to say yes. "Sure. I'll be there," he replied, his heart racing at the thought of seeing her again. The park bustled with life, kids laughing, couples strolling, and the wind gently rustling the leaves. Jake leaned against an old oak, anxiety gnawing at his gut while waiting for Sarah. He replayed their last conversation, her vulnerability haunting him. He caught a glimpse of a familiar figure approaching, her golden hair glowing under the sunlight. "Hey," she said, her smile tentative but genuine. "Thanks for coming." He nodded, feeling a storm of emotions trapped inside him. We need to talk." "I know," she said, glancing away as if choosing her next words carefully. I want you to know this money and success, it's not what I thought it would be." Her admission struck deeper than he anticipated. Memories of shared dreams swirled around them. For a moment, it felt like they were both back at the beginning of their journey, pieces of their past intertwining with the present. "Then what do you want, Sarah?" he asked, leaning closer, drawn by the gravity of their history. "I want," her words faltered. "I want us to find a way to connect to figure this out." Hope flickered in Jake's chest, then thudded painfully. "How can we connect when we've built such walls between us?" "It starts with honesty, Jake," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her eyes. "I need to be honest with myself with you." Just when he thought they might bridge that distance, Sarah's phone buzzed, pulling her attention away. Her expression shifted, and Jake's heart sank as she read the message. "Jake, but the urgency in her voice brought him back to reality. "Is it him?" he asked, trying to hide the swell of jealousy. She nodded regretfully. The moment dissipated between them, and he felt the old ache return. Sarah stepped back, her face a mix of regret and determination. "I want to do this right, to work on what we had. But I can't keep juggling both worlds." The enormity of her words hung in the air, like the charged atmosphere before a storm breaking. Questions flashed in Jake's mind. Would they ever truly find their way back to each other? Or were they destined to remain figures tangled in the past? As she turned to leave, their eyes locked one last time, and he felt something shift. A connection pulsed between them, stronger than before yet fragile, like the ash of the community center. "Wait, Sarah," he called after her, heart pounding now. This was his moment to decide. But before he could voice his plea, she was gone, her silhouette fading into the crowd. Alone, Jake felt the weight of the world pressing down hard. The path forward was blurred, more uncertain than ever. Could he find the courage to face what lay ahead? And as shadows grew long, he knew he had to decide what he truly wanted: the truth of their past or the promise of a future unknown. As the park faded into twilight, Jake stood rooted to the spot, the buzzing of people around him growing dim. Thoughts swirled like leaves caught in a gust of wind. Moments before, he had felt so close to connecting with Sarah. Now, that connection felt like a mirage, slipping away just as he reached for it. He turned to head home but paused. The laughter of children echoed, a reminder that his kids were waiting for him. Tom, with a baseball glove that was too big for his small hand, and Lily, who never went anywhere without her favorite stuffed bunny. They needed him, and he couldn't let the weight of his own heartache crush the light they brought into his life. As he made his way back, the familiar creak of the porch swing welcomed him. He smiled at his children, their faces lit with post-play exhilaration. "Hey guys! Home just in time for dinner." Tom launched himself at Jake's legs. "Dad, we played catch. I almost caught a fly ball. You're getting better every day." Jake ruffled Tom's hair, feeling a warmth spread through him. Watching his children, he tried to momentarily forget about Sarah and all the complexity that surrounded her. Lily dashed past with her bunny held high, announcing, "I'm going to climb the trees. I'll be the queen of the fastest tree. Just be careful," he called after her. He loved their spirit, their ability to find joy in every little moment. Dinner was filled with noise, stories of the day, and laughter. Jake sat at the table, trying to stay present, but his mind drifted back to Sarah. As he washed the dishes later, he caught himself staring at the empty chair across from him. Had things always been this way? Had he always carried this part of his heart so closely guarded that he couldn't see past it anymore? The comfort of routine wrapped around him until his phone buzzed again, breaking the peace. It was a text from Sarah, just two simple words, "Can we talk?" His heart raced, uncertainty snaking through him. After everything, was he ready to face her again? A voice echoed in his mind. He remembered her honesty, her desire for transparency. He took a deep breath, feeling that familiar pulse of hope and fear collide inside him. "Dad, can I build a treehouse?" Tom interrupted his thoughts, eyes gleaming with excitement. "Maybe we can build it together this weekend," Jake replied, forcing a smile as he placed the phone on the counter. "Really? You promise?" Tom asked, bouncing on his feet. "Yeah, I promise," Jake said, his heart lifting slightly. The next morning arrived all too quickly. Jake awoke with a resolve brewing inside him. This conversation with Sarah felt inevitable. If he wanted to reclaim their history, to harness whatever flicker of hope remained, he had to meet the challenges head-on. He needed to know if they could rebuild or if the ash of the community center was all that was left. As he dressed, he glanced outside. Tom helped Lily gather wildflowers, their laughter carrying in the crisp morning air. He wanted that. Wanted it more than anything, but he also ached for clarity in his own life. With a steadying breath, he grabbed his phone and replied to Sarah, "All right. Let us talk." Just as he was about to put the phone down, a soft knock came from the door. Heart beating faster, he opened it to find Sarah standing there, an unexpected expression in her eyes. There were no walls between them now, just raw vulnerability. "Jake," she started, but the words hung heavy in the air. The two stood awkwardly for a moment, both aware of the gravity of what lay ahead. Uncertainty loomed like a shadow over their reunion. "Are you ready?" he asked, almost a whisper, the world around them fading into silence. What they needed to face was more than just words or promises. It was the truth that lay hidden beneath all that had happened. The air crackled with unspoken tensions, a question waiting to be answered. But just as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, the sound of a luxury car pulling up outside broke the silence. Jake frowned, glancing past Sarah to catch a glimpse of a sleek vehicle and a suited figure. Stepping out. Could this newcomer change everything he thought he and Sarah were about to resolve? Jake swallowed hard, bracing himself for whatever truth was about to unfold. Would it bring them closer together or shatter the fragile hope he was clinging to? Jake's heart raced as he turned to watch the newcomer approach. The suited man exuded confidence, his strides deliberate, as if he owned every step he took. Jake felt a growing knot in his stomach. 100 questions flooded his mind, and each one felt like a hammer on the anvil of his heart. "Who is that?" Jake finally managed to ask, his voice strained. "Jake, Sarah's words faltered, a glimmer of panic in her eyes. The man reached them and extended his hand. "You must be Jake." "I'm Daniel," he said, with an easy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Nice to meet you," Jake replied, forcing a calmness he didn't feel. "What brings you here?" "I came to see Sarah," Daniel said, glancing at her. "We were just having a chat at the cafe." Jake's mind raced. A chat? That sounded dismissive. There was a weight in the air that felt electric, an unspoken tension wrapping around them. "Jake, I can explain," Sarah said, her voice trembling slightly. "Explain what?" he replied, a hint of defensiveness creeping into his tone. "Are we doing this now?" The words slipped out sharper than he intended. He had hoped for a quiet conversation, not an audience. "Yes, I think we should," she said, her eyes darting nervously between Jake and Daniel. "Well, I for one can't stick around for a family drama," Daniel interjected. "I'll give you two some space." He turned to leave, but glanced back at Sarah, a flicker of concern crossing his face. "Just remember what we talked about. Jake's breath hitched as the door closed behind Daniel. He felt the room constrict around him, the reality of the situation crashing in. What exactly was that about? He demanded, his voice low, almost a whisper, as if raising it might shatter the fragile moment. Jake, please let me explain, Sarah began, her hands trembling slightly. Explain what? That you've moved on? That you're with him now? The bitterness in his voice surprised him, and he quickly reined it in. I thought we were going to figure things out. We were, she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But I didn't expect to see him here. Yes, just a friend. The word hung heavy in the air. A friend? He echoed. I don't think friends show up in suits driving luxury cars. Please don't judge, she pleaded. He's been there for me. I didn't want this to happen, not like this. Jake's heart felt torn. He saw the regret in her eyes, yet he couldn't shake the chill from the encounter. So, what does this mean for us? Are you still interested in talking? I need to sort this out, Jake. I really do. Her honesty was a double-edged sword. It tore at him, but it also sparked the flicker of hope he was desperate for, like a candle's flame flickering against the dark. Fine. I'll give you space. Just please don't take too long. Jake, she started, but he couldn't bear to meet her gaze. He stepped back, the distance between them suddenly vast. The door swung open again, and Tom called out, Dad, can we have spaghetti for dinner? Jake's heart shattered just a little more as he forced a smile for his son, trying to mask the storm within him. Sure, buddy. I'll be right there. As Tom rushed back inside, Jake turned back to Sarah. Just take your time. The words fell weakly from his lips, loaded with uncertainty. Jake watched as she stood rooted to the spot, a mixture of pain and longing evident on her face. The storm that had been brewing felt enormous. What would be left when the dust finally settled? And just as he thought he'd put one foot forward, Sarah's phone rang, and he knew it was going to change everything again. An unexpected revelation was on the way. Could the truth of her feelings finally come to light? Jake's heart sank as he watched Sarah pull her phone out of her pocket. The look on her face shifted, an odd mix of surprise and dread that twisted something deep inside him. He couldn't help but feel the urgency build like a pressure gauge ready to burst. Who is it? He asked, trying to mask the anxiety in his voice. She glanced at him, her finger hovering over the screen. It's my brother. Her words wavered, and Jake caught the way her eyes darted, almost instinctively looking for an escape route. It hit him hard. Why would her brother be calling now? There was a flurry of emotion swirling between them, thick as smoke, as she hesitated to answer. Sarah, maybe you should take it, he suggested quietly, knowing full well the heaviness of what they had just navigated. She nodded slowly, taking the call. Hi, Josh. The sound of her brother's voice filled the air, but Jake couldn't grasp what he was saying, too caught up in the storm of his thoughts. He forced himself to focus on Tom and the sound of his son rummaging in the kitchen, searching for the spaghetti box, blissfully unaware of the emotional turbulence brewing just a few feet away. Listening to his son's laughter should have comforted him, yet it only underlined what was at stake. Jake, I really need to sort this out, she was saying, her voice strained on the other line. What does that mean? Jake blurted out before he could stop himself. She lowered the phone, her eyes wide, and whispered, I will figure it out, I promise. But Jake felt a ripple of doubt. Each moment spent in this uncertain limbo felt like a thread pulling taut, ready to snap. The man she just met, the man in the suit, had invaded their lives and clouded their already precarious situation. Sarah ended the call and caught Jake's gaze, her expression somber. My brother is worried about me. He knows about Daniel and our history. I can't believe this is happening, Jake said, shaking his head in disbelief, his heart pounding. I thought we were working through our issues. I know. I thought so too, she replied, her voice cracking. But it's complicated. Complicated? That doesn't even begin to describe it. He crossed his arms, the distance between them now electric with unresolved tension. I thought we were still a team. As she opened her mouth to respond, the phone buzzed again, another incoming call. This time, she looked at it and exhaled sharply. It's him, she said, staring at the screen as though it were a snake ready to strike. Why does he keep calling? Jake felt his frustration bubble over. Do you need to pick that up? I don't know, she said, her voice louder than intended. I can't just ignore him. Maybe you should. Maybe you need to take some space from all of this. Silence gripped the room. Time seemed to hang in the air. Jake's heart thumped loudly in his chest, a reminder of all the questions he still wanted answers to. Then Sarah took a deep breath, her brows knitting together. What if I told you Daniel has information? Information that could change everything for us? Jake's breath caught in his throat. What do you mean? But just as she opened her mouth to explain, the doorbell rang, slicing through the thick tension like a knife. Jake turned sharply. Who could that be? His heart raced, thoughts spiraling. Was this another complication? Or a twist in an already complex narrative? As the door creaked open, they both stared, uncertain of what awaited them on the other side. Would it bring clarity or chaos? And deep down, Jake silently wondered if he was ready for whatever revelation was to come next. Jake's heart raced as he opened the door. What stood before him took the breath right out. It was Laura, his ex-wife, looking every bit as polished and confident as he remembered. Beside her was a tall man in an impeccably tailored suit, radiating the kind of power that came only from wealth and privilege. Jake, Laura said, her voice a perfect blend of surprise and something else he couldn't quite place. I knew I'd find you here. Laura, he stammered, glancing back at Sarah. Her expression was a mix of disbelief and hurt. The sound of Tom in the kitchen faded as the weight of the moment settled between them, thickening the air. What is going on? Jake asked, trying to regain some sense of control. We need to talk about everything, Laura said, her eyes narrowing slightly at Sarah, who remained statuesque beside him. Everything? What do you mean? Jake felt a knot in his stomach deepen. Laura stepped inside, the billionaire trailing closely behind her. I've had some surprising developments in my life, and there's something important we need to discuss. It involves Daniel, she said carefully, glancing between Jake and Sarah. At the mention of Daniel, Sarah stepped forward, her eyes blazing. What does he have to do with any of this? Just hear me out, Laura said, her voice steady but laced with urgency. I know things have been rocky between us, Jake. You need to understand that Daniel isn't the threat you think he is. He wants to help. Help? With what? Making your lives more complicated? Jake remarked, disbelief coloring his tone. Look, I understand how you feel right now, Laura said, holding her hands up to placate him. But it's about our son too. Tom is the key. Jake's heart stuttered at the sound of their son's name. Tom? What does our son have to do with Daniel? Laura glanced at the man beside her, who finally spoke. I'm Ethan, he introduced himself, his eyes focused intently on Jake. I've been working with Laura on some family matters, especially concerning Daniel. He knows things that could resolve a lot of issues. Like what? Jake shot back, his eyes never leaving Laura's. Don't beat around the bush. If you're here to talk about forgiveness or some new family arrangement, you're barking up the wrong tree. A flicker of hurt passed across Laura's face, quickly replaced with determination. No, Jake. It's nothing like that. Daniel isn't just some stranger. He's part of a larger picture. His connections can change everything for us. All of us, she emphasized, looking pointedly at Sarah. In that moment, Jake felt the walls closing in. Sarah's face was a whirlwind of emotions. There was fear, anger, but also something else, hope? Change everything? How? And why should I trust you or him? Jake pressed. I know this is overwhelming, Ethan intervened smoothly, but there are things about Daniel that only Laura can explain. Things that might even bring clarity to your situation with Sarah. The air felt electric, charged with possibility and tension. Sarah and Jake exchanged a glance, and in that fleeting moment, an unspoken question hung heavy between them. Could this be the lifeline they so desperately needed? Before Jake could voice his thoughts, Tom burst into the room, a big smile lighting up his face. Mom? Dad? Who is this? Are we having a party? Amidst the confusion, something shifted. That innocent joy echoed through Jake's heart, as if reminding him of what was truly important. As the three adults stood in a semicircle, Jake felt a swell of protectiveness rise within him. "We'll talk," he said slowly, his gaze firm but open. "But this better be worth it." And as the weight of the past and potential futures converged in that room, he realized that everything was about to change. In the silence that followed, Sarah turned to him, uncertainty clouding her features. "Jake, are you sure about this?" He nodded, knowing that whatever revelations were on the horizon, they would face them together. And yet, a whisper of doubt lingered. Was he truly prepared for the secrets that would unravel next? The air hung thick after Tom's cheerful interruption, the tension shifting slightly as everyone's focus veered toward the young boy. Jake felt a wave of warmth wash over him, easing the tightness in his chest, even if just for a moment. Tom was the light in this disordered life. "Hey, buddy." Jake knelt down, his heart swelling with pride as he took in his son's wide-eyed curiosity. This is Laura. Your mom." "Mom?" Tom's eyebrows shot up, a mix of excitement and confusion swirling like a storm across his face. "What is going on?" Laura stepped forward, a gentle smile breaking through her earlier intensity. "It's so good to see you, Tom." "I've missed you," she said, her voice softening, almost musical. "Did you bring me a present?" Tom asked unabashedly, glancing hopefully between the adults. Jake couldn't suppress a chuckle. Kids would always know how to cut through the noise. "Let us focus on what's happening here first, Tom," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Ethan shifted slightly, almost invisible behind Laura, but Jake could feel the weight of his presence. The billionaire's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the storm in the room. "Listening is the best gift right now," Ethan chimed in, maintaining eye contact with Jake. "Right, we need to figure out what this really means," Jake said, glancing quickly at Sarah. She was still processing. "Laura, you said Daniel is a key. How? What does he have to do with Tom?" Laura straightened, regaining her composure. "Daniel has knowledge that can change how this family operates, Jake. It's about the future, our future, and, more importantly, Tom's future." Jake crossed his arms defensively. "And what do you mean by that? Do you think you can just waltz back into our lives and play the savior?" "Jake, please." Laura's voice, once assertive, now trembled slightly. "You need to trust me. Things have changed on my end, and I believe Daniel's involvement could help stabilize everything. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it was important." "Stabilize what? More upheaval?" Jake shot back, his heart racing again. "I get it, man." Ethan stepped in, his calm voice holding a hint of empathy that disarmed Jake. "It's not about undermining you. It's about giving Tom what he needs. Safety, security beyond the drama of adults." That struck Jake harder than he realized. He looked at his son again, bright, innocent, untouched by the turbulence of the past few years. "You want to protect him," Jake said slowly, as if finding his way through a thick fog. "But how do we know if Daniel is really the solution?" "Because I know his family. They are powerful and influential, but beyond wealth, they care about community," Laura answered, her tone firm. "But it's not just about money or connections," Sarah spoke finally, her voice shaking but resolute. "It's about the trust that comes with it. Jake, we can't ignore how things went down before. This feels different, but can we really gamble on those connections?" A silence fell, thick with contemplation. Jake's heart beat loudly in his chest. What if this was the answer they had been looking for, a way to tie things up and build something new? Could he put old wounds on the back burner for Tom's sake? "Let us say I'm willing to listen." "What's next?" Jake asked, feeling the burden of multiple gazes on him. He realized that this was more than just about him or Laura. It was about Tom's happiness and maybe even his own redemption. "I can set up a meeting with Daniel," Ethan quickly replied, ready with the next step. "Okay," Jake agreed cautiously. "We take it one step at a time." As they stood there, the promise of change hummed in the air, but another question loomed. What truths would they uncover, and at what cost? And as Tom tugged at Jake's shirt, wide-eyed with hope, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were all on the verge of something monumental, something that could either break them or bring them closer than ever before. Jake felt the weight of everyone's expectations pressing on him. Tom's small hand in his was a grounding force amid the swirling uncertainty. Dad, are we going to see Mom again? The question cut through the air, pure and innocent, and Jake's throat tightened. Not wanting to make promises he couldn't keep, Jake hesitated. We're just taking it one day at a time, buddy. The words felt thin against the enormity of the situation, like a flimsy boat on stormy seas. Laura knelt beside Tom, her presence both reassuring and alarming. Tom, I want you to know I'm here because I love you and I want to make things right. I'm ready to be a part of your life. Her sincerity was palpable, but Jake felt a familiar stir of doubt rising within him. Are you really? Jake asked instinctively, defensiveness edging his voice. You left us. How do we know you won't do it again? She looked at him, emotions shifting across her face. Hurt, regret, and a glimmer of hope struggled for dominance. I can't change what happened before, but I can show you I'm different now. I've learned? Jake interrupted, anger flaring. You learned while Tom was growing up without you? It took you this long to see what you left behind? The words stung, each one forged from years of unresolved feelings. Ethan cleared his throat softly, as if he could absorb the tension with traditional polish. Why don't we give Laura a chance to explain? His tone was calm, soothing, a stark contrast to Jake's frantic heart. Right, Tom tugged at Jake's sleeve, and his bright blue eyes glistened with excitement and confusion. Can we go get ice cream after? Mom never took me for ice cream. Jake couldn't help but smile a little at his son's innocence. That sounds nice, but how about we focus on right now? Laura took a breath, gathering her thoughts. I know I hurt you both, Tom, Jake interjected, kneeling down to his son, brushing a stray hair from the boy's forehead. It's important, this stuff. You need to know too. Okay, Tom looked between his dad and Laura, his expression swinging between eagerness and apprehension. I want to be there for him, Laura pressed on, her voice steady. I'm ready to take bigger steps, including getting Daniel involved. His family supports kids who need help. They donated $1 million to build a community center last year. This is real. Jake's brow furrowed. What money can't fix emotions, Laura? I know, she said softly. But Daniel's family cares. They help in meaningful ways. A mentor for Tom, help with school. I can't promise perfection, but I can promise an effort. The room fell silent again, a heavy pause filled with the tension of unspoken possibilities. Ethan glanced at Jake, his expression serious but understanding. Just consider it. Daniel can provide resources and connections. This isn't just about Laura, but about creating a stable environment for Tom. Jake struggled with the conflicting emotions surging within him. Did he dare let down his guard, even for the sake of his son? Tom shifted closer, drawing on his father's strength, unaware of the complex web they were all tangled in. After a long sigh, Jake rubbed the back of his neck. Maybe we can meet with Daniel. But no promises or assumptions. Just a conversation. Thank you, Laura breathed, relief flooding her features. Tom grinned, all hope and trust. So we get ice cream after? Jake gazed at his son, and then at Laura. I think we can arrange that. As excitement bubbled in Tom's face, a chill ran down Jake's spine. He was flirting with uncertainty. Could this really work? Was this the beginning of something new or just setting them up for another fall? Let's do that, Jake said finally, but beneath his resolve, doubt lurked. Perhaps the biggest questions awaited them, hidden behind the promises of a brighter future, questions about love, forgiveness, and the heartache of starting over. What if Daniel was the unknowing spark that would ignite hidden tensions sitting just below the surface? Jake knew that nothing was guaranteed, and in the next days, they might all have to face what had been kept buried for too long. Jake had always thought he was prepared for anything, but life had a knack for throwing curveballs when he least expected it. A few days passed since their meeting, filled with cautious optimism and hesitance. As Tom skipped through the house, chattering about the different flavors of ice cream he hoped to try, Jake felt a mix of pride and apprehension. He was making an effort, but the internal dialogue was relentless. Should he really give Laura another chance? After everything? Every time Tom laughed or shared a small victory at school, it served as a bittersweet reminder of their past. Those memories were tinged with shadows, moments of disappointment, and lost time that gnawed at him. It was Saturday, and there was a crispness in the air that felt invigorating. Tom was excited about the ice cream, but Jake was more concerned about the upcoming meeting with Daniel. As the clock ticked closer to noon, Jake prepped himself. Would this be a life-changing opportunity or another misstep that could lead to more heartbreak for Tom? Dad. Tom's voice broke through his thoughts, pulling him back to the present. He was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, brushing his hair in an uncoordinated way. Do I look okay? Jake couldn't help but chuckle. You look great, buddy. Just, maybe comb it a bit more in the back. You think Daniel is going to like me? Tom asked, his voice suddenly small. Of course he will, Jake replied. Just be yourself. You're a great kid. Tom nodded, his big eyes sparkling with anticipation, but Jake noticed the nervous twitch of his son's fingers. He glanced at the clock again. Let us get going, all right? We don't want to be late. When they arrived at the community center, the modern building stood tall against the backdrop of blue skies. The energy inside buzzed with activity as families milled about, kids laughing and volunteers directing everyone. Jake felt a knot in his stomach tighten. Then he spotted Laura, standing with another man tall, handsome, and polished. She looked radiant, wearing a smile that radiated warmth, but also revealed the layers of nervousness underneath. Jake's heart sank, realizing just how serious Laura was about this new chapter. Everyone! Laura called out, her voice cutting through the noise as they approached. This is Daniel. He's here to meet Tom. Daniel extended his hand with a confident charm, his demeanor instantly disarming. Nice to meet you, Jake. I'm really looking forward to this. Tom, I've heard a lot about you. Tom blinked at Daniel, a mixture of awe and shyness washing over him. Hi, he squeaked back, feeling the weight of two adult worlds colliding behind him. Laura's smile faltered just slightly as she turned to Jake, searching for something in his eyes. He masked the storm brewing inside him. They were here for Tom, and he had to keep this about him, even if the stakes felt like they were sky-high. Why don't we grab a seat? Laura suggested, trying to sound casual, as if the tension weren't palpable. As they settled down, Jake felt a flicker of hope mixed with dread. Daniel began talking about the programs available at the community center, describing mentorship opportunities and tutoring. His enthusiasm was infectious, and he spoke openly about his own experiences growing up. But even as Daniel shared his vision for helping kids, Jake's mind wandered. Every laugh exchanged between Tom and Daniel hit like a hammer on anxieties he couldn't shake. How could he trust this stranger to care for his son? And Laura, what did she really want? Suddenly, Tom raised his small hand, interrupting, "Can we do a project together? I want to learn about making robots. Will you, Daniel?" Jake's heart soared at Tom's bravery. Daniel's face lit up, clearly impressed. Absolutely, I would love that. We can build one together right here. As the conversation flowed, a realization blossomed in Jake's chest. For all his skepticism, maybe this was worth exploring. The world was bigger than just their past mistakes. Perhaps here, with help, they could carve a new path together. Yet, as Jake looked at Tom's face illuminated with joy and hope, he couldn't ignore the storm within him. The warmth of the moment was clouded with uncertainty about Laura's true motivations. Did she genuinely want to stay, or was this just another fleeting promise? Just then, behind the vibrant laughter, he saw a flicker of doubt in Laura's eyes, a hint of the struggles she faced. Did she realize the kind of transformation they all needed? This feels different, Jake thought. Or was it just another facade? As they found more common ground in their conversations, Jake could only wonder what came next. He felt like they were tiptoeing along a precipice. Could they really build something solid, or was this just another fleeting moment fraught with fractures yet to be revealed? The answers were just out of reach, buried beneath layers of yearning, confusion, and unspoken fears. What would it take for them to truly understand each other? Would the coming days unveil the hidden truths they all needed to confront? The days turned into weeks as Jake, Sarah, and Laura navigated this new reality. Each meeting with Daniel brought Tom's enthusiasm alive, filling their lives with a hopeful energy that felt foreign yet refreshing. Jake watched as Tom beamed with pride, working on the small robot with Daniel, who turned out to be more than just a mentor. He was genuinely invested in the kid's potential, taking time to understand him, meet his interests, and even challenge him. And each day, Jake felt a struggle between hope and skepticism tugging at his heart. One Friday night, as they sat around the kitchen table eating dinner, Jake recognized that the situation was shifting. Tom was animatedly recounting the latest triumph on their robot project, while Sarah and Laura exchanged looks of quiet understanding, a silent acknowledgement that their past had given way to something new. "Dad, can you help with the next steps?" Tom asked, his eyes sparkling. "Daniel said I could enter it into a competition if we finish it." Jake felt pride swell as he looked at his son. "Absolutely. We can work on it together this weekend." "I've got some ideas of my own," he said, breaking into a smile that felt genuine. "Yay!" Tom shouted, so full of joy he could barely stay in his seat. The warmth filled the air, but Jake also sensed the tension simmering in the room. It was Laura who broke the silence that had settled. "Jake," she began, hesitating as if choosing her words carefully. "I know I've made mistakes before." "Laura, let us focus on Tom right now," Jake replied, trying to change the subject, but the weight of unspoken things lingered, heavy in the air. "No, really, I need to say this," she insisted, her expression earnest. "I've been thinking a lot about family. And actually, Daniel has been a huge support in helping me reevaluate what that means. I'm committed to making things right." Jake felt the pulse of conflict in his chest. He wanted to believe her, wanted this to be true, but doubts nagged at him. "Laura," he started, but his voice softened as he looked at their son, unaware of the tangled feelings swirling around them. "Can we just take things one step at a time?" he asked, leaning back, trying to hold on to optimism at bay while protecting what he valued. "I agree," Sarah interjected, her voice steady. "Family doesn't have to mean perfection. It's about being present. We can find our way through this together." Jake nodded, and in that moment, it felt like an unbreakable alliance formed. They were mothers and fathers again, alongside each other, and it felt good. He could start to see the outlines of a new family emerging from the ashes of their past. The weeks passed, and the community center became a hub for their collaboration. They worked alongside Daniel, laughter echoing as Tom thrived. Jake felt himself transforming too, letting go of layers of resentment, allowing room for forgiveness and connection. As they got closer to the competition day, Jake stood at the window one evening, watching Tom fuss over the final touches of the robot. The glow of the setting sun filtered in, and he could see the vibrant joy radiating from his son. It filled him with an unexpected warmth and anticipation for the future. "Jake?" A familiar voice broke through his thoughts. It was Sarah. She stepped beside him, gazing at Tom. "You know, watching him like this, it gives me hope." Jake turned to face her, his heart pounding. "Hope?" he echoed, searching her expression. "Yeah," she said softly. "Hope that we can truly rebuild something together. Not just for us, but for him. We've all been through a lot." "I've realized that too," he admitted slowly. "It wasn't what I expected, but it's made me see the value of second chances of honesty. I want Tom to see us working together, you know?" Sarah nodded, an almost imperceptible smile gracing her lips. "I want that too, to be a team. With open hearts." And in that moment it clicked, a sense of clarity washing over him. The transformation they'd been searching for was happening, an unexpected outcome catalyzed by shared struggles. They turned together to watch Tom one last time and shared an understanding that they were all intricately connected. Life had thrown them into chaos, but now they were starting to piece together something beautiful. Then, just as the evening grew calm and quiet, Laura joined them, her eyes shimmering with excitement. "Hey guys! You won't believe what Daniel just told me." They all turned, eager anticipation pulling them closer. And in that moment of hope, Jared understood they were crafting a new narrative, one where missteps became lessons and where the love for Tom anchored their hearts. What lay ahead was unknown, yet for the first time in a long while, Jake felt ready for love, for forgiveness, and for a future they had the chance to shape together. As they embraced the rising tide of change, Jake whispered, "Together." And there was power in that, a promise that they would face whatever was next, as one family overcoming everything life placed in their way. This was their moment to rise. Now, if you've loved this journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to hit that bell to stay in the loop for more inspiring stories. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm and boost our community. And comment your thoughts. I'm eager to hear how you felt about the ending and what it means to you. Finally, share this video with at least 5 friends who you know could use this transformation. This is the moment to show your support for this channel. Don't miss out.